franktalks.com.
Need help with love, sex, dating, or relationship issues? Help from Frank Kermit, the best-selling author and Canada's most international relationship coach, is only a click away at franktalks.com.
Listen to The Barry Morgan Show, live weekdays noon to 3 on CJAD 800 and CJAD.com.
2:07 is the time, and boy, if you were stuck in a situation like this, never fun when your car needs a boost. You certainly weren't alone. Coming up, I'm going to tell you what happened to me years ago when my car wouldn't start. It was a complete disaster, just like for everybody else, but it was, let's put it this way, it didn't resolve itself very quickly. I can kind of laugh about it now. Kind of, but not really. And also, how many times a day women criticize themselves and what tops the list. We'll get to that after 2:30 as well. Also, true or false. But right now we're talking relationship news with author and speaker Frank Kermit, who regularly sits in for Dr. Lori Bettito. Frank, Happy New Year. Great to see you.
Happy New Year to you too, Barry.
So here we are, first week of January 2016, and so we're past the New Year's Eve parties and the Christmas parties and the family reunions and the dating and the going out and blah, 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 which could be a tough time for a lot of people, let's face it. And you were here not that long ago, maybe about a month ago or so.
Exactly.
And I don't remember exactly, but we probably talked about the upcoming holidays. Well, now they're in the rearview mirror, and for a lot of people, let's face it, it's a big relief that they're over.
It is a big relief because sometimes the holidays puts a lot of pressure on people to say, hey, you're still single, or you're not in that relationship that makes you happy.
Yeah.
And now is the time when a lot of people start saying, I don't want to go through this again. So if they're in a bad relationship, they're starting to plan their exit. And for some single people, they recognize that Valentine's Day isn't that far away.
I was just going to mention, by the way, Frank, Valentine's Day isn't that far away.
So now if you're still single, now is the time to go out there and try to find somebody so that you're not alone on Valentine's Day.
If you don't want to hear the complaints from your friends and family, at least.
That's just a part of it. For a lot of people, if they hate being alone, they don't need the complaints from friends and families. They already feel it. They're punishing themselves.
And if they like being alone, well, they certainly don't want to hear it either.
Exactly.
How much, how much stock do people put, in your experience, Frank, in the kind of pressure that they face from a family member, from a friend, let's say, to get hooked up with somebody, to get married, or at least, start dating somebody seriously?
The pressure can actually be very significant. I know a number of people who have forced themselves to date people they didn't want to date, even going as far as getting married to people they didn't really want to be married to.
No kidding.
Because there was just an expectation that, well, it's time, you're getting older, you don't want to end up alone. And usually, family and friends aren't there to hurt you. They want you to be happy, and
based on what they think will make you happy.
Exactly,
Yeah.
because they define being in a relationship as obviously a path to happiness. So therefore, since you're not in a relationship, you can't possibly be happy with that one. That's not the case. Some people really are better off alone and dating casually, or not dating at all.
And that kind of leads me to this. And by the way, if you have a question about relationships or dating, Frank's certainly one man to talk with. 790-0800, or you can send a text to 514-800. You wrote a piece with the headline, Be the Light You Seek in Life. This is going to appear on the Suburban website this week?
It's going to be on the Suburban website this week, thesuburban.com.
And what's the hook here with relationships and all that stuff?
Well, the idea is that New Year's resolutions, everybody's talking about all the bad things that have happened in this past year. And the key to making any significant changes in the world is about making a change within yourself. And if you want really great relationships, or just being able to find a great dating partner in the world, you have to be a great dating partner to set the example. So don't look for Prince or Princess Charming out there if you yourself aren't charming.
But who's going to admit that they're not charming, right?
This is actually one of the biggest components in coaching. The people who come to me, they're saying, look, I've been trying it on my own. It hasn't worked. I'm doing something wrong, and I want to fix this. These are the people that I can help find whatever it is they're looking for, because we're going to look at their behavior, and we're going to look at reasons why they're alone. We're going to look at ways that they might turn off a potential suitor.
So give me an example of a particular behavior that you'd say, oh, okay, we're going to work on this a little bit.
Okay. Somebody who's trying too hard to be funny. Sense of humor is very important. Okay. Everybody values the sense of humor in a partner. But what if your style of humor doesn't come off as funny, but comes off as insulting, degrading, or maybe even a little bit creepy? That may not be your intent. You're just trying to be funny. And you're saying something that you think would, evoke a laugh. But the fact is, what you're doing, the jokes that you're making kind of turn the other person off. So that's part of what I would do with somebody is I would say, okay, act with me the way you would act on a date, and let me do a little bit of an analysis here. Are you addressing emotional needs, or are you violating emotional needs?
So be yourself, just not too much?
It's important to be yourself, but when you're on a date, you want to be your best self. With that said, if you're doing something that is consistently turning people off, then changing that behavior pattern isn't just important for your love life, it's important for your overall life, because you really don't know what opportunities you may have missed, not just in dating, but in other areas of your life, because you're behaving in a way that pushes people away.
So the racist humor, maybe save that for date number 2.
If you are somebody who, let's say, makes a living, a stand-up comedian, and racial jokes are a major component of your act, then you're better off right away saying, look, this is what I'm about, and before you meet me, here's a video clip on YouTube of me. But generally speaking, racial jokes in general, if we want to use this as an example, they may not necessarily be the best type of humor that you want to involve in, because you don't know how other people are going to interpret your behavior, your words, and you might be missing out on great work opportunities. You might be missing out on opportunities just to meet people and to be invited to places just because somebody won't tell you to your face that you've really turned them off.
Somebody just texted here, Frank. I'm thinking of finally doing the online dating thing. Which site would your guest advise and why?
Okay,
there's so many out there, right?
There's so many out there. You would have to decide if you're looking for something a little bit more casual or if you want something much more serious. If you want something much more serious where you're looking to actually find a life partner.
I'm guessing this is what this person is after. I'm just extrapolating here a little bit, but it sounds like that.
Okay, so something, for example, like eHarmony. Very expensive. It's a long process to actually get your profile up there. They may even reject you depending on what's in your profile, but they're an online matchmaking service more.
They charge everybody, men and women?
From what I understand, they do.
Okay. Because a lot of them charge just the guys.
Some of them just charge the guys and don't charge the girls. I have found a lot of time gets wasted on those particular ones because you're charged by the amount of time or the messages that you answer. And since one gender doesn't have to pay anything, I've heard of stories of women leaving multiple messages for somebody so they could just use up their time, and then they'll have to be stuck having to pay for more time. So I stay away from anything that has a gender split in cost. You want something where either everybody pays or nobody pays. And most importantly, stay away from catfish profiles. These are people who are trying to scam you to send them money. So have a little bit of a boundary there, and the boundary is no matter how I feel connected with somebody online, I will not send them money under any circumstance. And you would be surprised how many people end up stuck in that situation.
Having not even met before?
Not even met.
Really?
They'll get a photo. It'll be email contacts.
Yeah.
And, if it's always somebody who's gone through something traumatic. I am a widower. I've just gone through this accident. I can't work. I'm in the military, so therefore I can't see you. I live overseas right now. They'll never even talk on the phone. But the languaging in these profiles is so hypnotic. It is designed to make you feel certain attachment. And if somebody's lonely, especially over the holidays, we just got out of the holidays, if somebody's feeling extra
lonely,
lonely,
how they get their hooks into you.
This is when they get their hooks into you, exactly as you said, because you read a profile and there's something about it that you say, I don't know why, but I'm having an emotional reaction to it. They're written to give you that emotional reaction.
It's 2:19 on this very cold Monday afternoon, and in studio is Frank Kermit, who is a dating and relationship coach, and we're going to get back to a couple of your questions in just a second. But Frank, where did you find this story?
Okay.
Let me interrupt you just for a second. The headline, by 2050, we'll all be having sex with robots. And I got to tell you, John texted this earlier when I mentioned it a bit ago. He said, where is it? He goes, hi, Barry, Happy New Year. They did say by the year 2000 we'd be in flying cars. Don't believe everything you hear. So what's this all about?
Okay, there is a gentleman by the name of Ian Pearson. He is a futurist. He is a theorist who writes about the future, and he's, for more often than not, he's been fairly accurate about his predictions. Now, when he says by 2050 we'll be having sex with robots, the fact is right now, in not only North America, but also in many Asian countries, there are people who are having full relationships, emotional relationships, with life-size dolls.
And of course, somebody will hear that and say, well, how could you possibly have an emotional relationship with a doll?
Because you are going to emote and feel some sort of a connection to an artificial thing. You are basically transposing, you are displacing emotions that you feel into this inanimate object. And if you don't have relationships outside of that with human beings, a relationship with an inanimate object can be very, very intimate for the individual. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's better or worse than a relationship with a human being. It's just different, but it feels very important. The same way there are some people who connect better with their pets than they do with their friends and their family. So I don't want to make a judgment call saying this is good, this is bad here, but I do want to present.
So is this good or bad, friend?
I'll tell you what I see. Okay, I'll tell you what I see in my practice right now.
All right.
I see people who are actually struggling to enjoy real people because they might use toys and marital aids too much. I see people who are practicing self-pleasuring, and then when they get with a new partner, a real partner, they're not used to another human being's touch, and therefore their bodies are not reacting to it. And the process of having to stop that behavior and actually getting into the behavior of getting into a real relationship. So when I see headlines like this, yeah, we'll be having sex with robots. Well, people are already having sex with inanimate objects. Robots is just the next step.
I guess so, yeah.
And
and who knows what technology is going to look like in 30, 35, 40 years.
We don't know, but we know technology expands exponentially, which means that at the very beginning, we see it with computers. Computers are large and bulky and so on, and now you can hold a computer in the palm of your hand.
Oh, yeah.
In a lot less time than it took to create the original technology. So the question I have is, how rampant is it going to be where more and more people are unable to emotionally connect with other human beings, to sexually connect with other human beings? And will we reach a point where it becomes so normalized that human beings are going to really struggle in intimate relationships?
I guess for some people it depends just on how lifelike these robots can be. And let's face it, like I said, in 30 years or whatever, 40 years,
well,
it's impossible to say what somebody can come up with. But would you be shocked if a robot is
interactive?
Yeah.
And if the robot is interactive, you have to remember, though, that relationships with human beings, as rewarding as they are, can also be very challenging. And for some people, they're just not up for the challenge.
Amy writes, I know guys that practically make love to their car, so why not a fake woman? And she goes on to say, besides, no mood swings to deal with. LOL. So at least, Amy, you're looking at this with a sense of humor, which is great.
Right, but I mean, the same thing. Yeah. Listen, there are websites designed to sell sex toys to women that take that exact attitude. Go ahead and use the sex toys because the battery-operated boyfriend is better than the real boyfriend. And, I know it's funny. I know it's there's a lot of humor there.
Yeah.
But let's also remember that we're also looking at an entire generation that's growing up on this. How are they going to interpret the value of relationships?
Somebody asks, did this futurist think about reproduction? How will we reproduce? Well, that's a whole other issue.
That's a whole other issue. And what the futurist was saying in his article was like, look, just because you may enjoy sex with a robot doesn't mean you're going to necessarily stop enjoying sex with a real human being. And that's a great theory. However, what we're seeing, at least what I'm seeing in my practice, is that once somebody gets used to something and learns to get their body to respond to that, trying to get involved with a human being actually becomes even more challenging than it already is.
Yeah. Okay, Ace writes, been separated for 4.5 years. I've dated here and there, but once I end up sleeping with the person I'm dating, I get turned off. Am I just used to being alone or what, Frank?
Okay, first of all, if you are loving the pursuit, if you're loving the chase, you may be addicted to some kind of emotional drama. So some people really love the chase. And once it becomes intimate, all of a sudden they have some kind, and I don't know if this applies to Ace, but if we're dealing with a fear of intimacy, that means that once it becomes more intimate, it becomes a threat and it's no longer pleasurable. So you might be getting not so much turned off or bored, but all of a sudden it becomes that much more real because now you actually have to deal with the person on a new intimate level that you may not feel comfortable or feel safe in.
Okay.
Once the vulnerability hits afterwards, it may not just be a matter of, okay, now I'm bored. Your body may be shutting down emotionally because you don't want to be able to deal with the real intensity of an emotion. However, you may still be addicted to that emotional chase, and that's something that you would have to deal with individually.
Another listener writes, I'm a 57-year-old female. Where do you suggest I meet some men?
First of all, figure out the types of men you want to be with and what those men would be interested in. So if you have a female friend and she's married and you kind of like the guy that she's with, find out what his interests are and go to places that cater to those interests. If your guy is a sports buff, if the kind of guy you like is into hockey, let's say, well, hockey bars, places, arenas, where maybe people are volunteering, or places where...
or she can go where, if she's a hockey fan, for instance, go to a game and maybe you'll meet a guy. Well, I guess she can meet a couple of guys at least at a hockey game.
Exactly. Yeah. So first of all, don't just think, where am I going to meet men? Think about the type of man you want. What would his interests be? And go to places that cater to that interest.
Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. And we're getting some, as you might expect, some jokes about the whole robot sex thing.
Oh, absolutely.
Most of which I can't read on the air. I appreciate people taking the time, nevertheless. I could read this one, I think. A doll doesn't get a headache. That's true. Yeah.
Listen, behind every single one of these jokes, there may be some resentment, some real life resentment based on some bad relationship experiences. I'm on the other side of this. I'm on the side where people say, hey, I'm really struggling here. I'm really having problems with dating. What do I do? And these are all the things that come up. So I look at this and I say, wow, I'm sure that for some people this is going to be great. For other people, it will be just another form of escapism.
And Amy texted back, people already having sex at any time with anyone at anywhere thanks to sites like Tinder. That in a way is already like having sex with robots since it's so easy to pick and choose and dispose of, is the way Amy puts it. Interesting.
Interesting, but people were doing that way before sites like Tinder. Tinder was...
They still got together. It was just a little tougher to organize.
They figured it out. They all met. Tinder was created to respond to an existing demand. Technology cannot create a demand in that respect.
Kelly Alexander in for Dr. Laurie tonight?
Yeah, and I'm going to be on tonight at 10 p.m., so any of the questions that we didn't get a chance to answer, or if you have any questions regarding dating, relationships, I'm going to be on the Dr. Laurie show tonight here on CJAD at 10 p.m. Give me a call, send a text, and we will get to your questions. I will be on Facebook Live at exactly the same time, so if you are on my Facebook page, just go ahead and send me a message through Facebook.
There you go. There's Frank Kermit, who is a dating and relationship coach. And other than his appearances on CJAD, you could also read him online, various publications, including the Suburban online.
Yeah, www.thesuburban.com.
Have a great year, Frank. Great to see you.
You too.
Frank Kermit.
News Talk Radio, CJAD 800, CJAD.com.
Need help with love, sex, dating and relationships? Visit franktalks.com.
What do you do when you feel like a fool? When your heart has been broken again? Pick up the phone or get onto Skype and talk on a private session. Yeah, get a little help from Frank Talks. Whoa, whoa, get by with a little help from Frank Talks. You gotta try a little help from Frank Talks. What do you do when your love goes away? Try coaching How do I sign up to turn things around? Just sign up at franktalks.com.